Hello and welcome to the Square 9 Global Search Enterprise Content Management presentation. Today we're going to take a look at Global Search and how it can help you manage your critical documents throughout your organization. We'll start off by taking a high-level overview of the interface and how we can customize it to best suit your needs. Then we'll look at how we can bring documents into the system and attribute key metadata to those documents to make searching and retrieving of them easier later on. Then we'll look at various ways we can search for the documents using that metadata or by simply searching content within the document. And then we'll end by going over some of the different actions we can take on the document once it's in the system. Let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to launch Global Search here in my web browser. Now, because Global Search is a web application, this means we can access it across various different platforms. So whether I'm using PC or Mac, or if I have an Apple phone or Android phone, whether I'm using Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, or Safari, you can access the system. Now, once I've logged in, you'll notice that we have a very clean interface here with just kind of a blank canvas. And this is done intentionally to keep the system as clean as possible, making it easy for end users to get in and learn the system. Now, on the left-hand side here, we have queues and archives. Queues are bookmarked searches so that I can quickly and easily find documents that are relevant to me whenever I need them. And archives are our long-term storage. So this is where our documents will live going forward. Now you'll notice in my archive structure here, I've got accounts payable, receivable, human resources, and then we have sub-archives too for things like packing slips, purchase orders, and vendor invoices. Now, this structure is completely customizable based upon your needs. One thing you'll notice though is that this archive structure is very shallow, and that's actually done intentionally. So rather than having a separate archive for each of, let's say, my vendors under invoices, I just have my vendors' invoices archive and packing slips and purchase orders. Now, if I click in on my purchase orders here, I'll show you how we can achieve that. So you'll notice across the top, I've got all these different column headers. So these are what we call index fields. So now rather than having a folder for every single vendor, I can simply track that in an index field. This is going to make filing documents that much easier. I don't have to go find a date or the vendor name before I can file it. I simply put it in the appropriate archive based on the file type. Now, these index fields, just like the archives, are completely customizable. And one thing we can do is have unique index fields for each archive, or they can share index fields. So here in purchase orders, I've got vendor name, PO number, PO amount. And when I jump into vendor invoices, we'll see that we have some of the same field names, such as vendor name and PO number, but we also have now an added invoice number and invoice amount. And this is completely customizable based upon what you need in your various archives. Now, once we're in this view, we can go ahead and customize this view based upon our needs. So here we can sort based on our vendor name. I can change it to descending. I can pin a column to the left like I've done with invoice numbers here. This way, as I scroll through the screen here, it's going to go ahead and keep that invoice number on the left-hand side. And maybe there's a column that doesn't matter to me. So maybe I don't really care about who's captured this document. I can go ahead and hide that column so that I won't see it next time I log in. And all of these visual settings are sticky to the end user. So each user that comes into the system can arrange these index fields in a way that makes sense for them. So now that we've seen what the system looks like, let's go through an example of bringing a document into the system. Now we can do this in many different ways. I can click the three little dots here next to an archive, and I can import using a scanner hooked up to my computer. Any Twain compliant desktop scanner can scan into the system. I can also import files from my computer. We also have the ability to monitor a network folder so that when files get dropped into that folder, we'll go ahead and bring them in, or an email address as well. We can also print files directly from an application you might be using. We can also drag and drop. For the purposes of today, I'll go ahead and drag and drop an invoice into my vendor invoice archive. Now, the second I do this, the system is going to give us a preview of what the document looks like, as well as giving us the index fields that we need to fill in. Now, in the same way that these index fields are customizable, we can also make certain ones required if that's something that you need. So, for instance, we could have invoice number required. So the system won't allow me to import this document unless I've added an index number. So let's go ahead and start indexing this document. Now I could just simply type in the information that I want to type in. And that's a good. We can go through and click through these and go ahead and index it that way. But here at Square 9, we're trying to make things quick and efficient. So when I type things in, it's easy to encounter things like typos, and it could also take a long time. So we have a tool that we've developed called key-free indexing. So when I click on this lightning bolt icon, our system is going to read the text on the page using OCR technology, which is going to convert the image into text. So with vendor name highlighted here, and I can mouse over the brew shop, which is my vendor name, and you'll see it's pulling the text off of the page. So now instead of typing, all I have to do is lasso that information. And now I can go through and continue and just click on the information that I need, such as PO number and invoice number up here. I can scroll down and get the invoice amount, invoice date. Now we also have the option for index fields to be a drop-down. So in this case, cost center isn't on my document, but I can still index it with just a simple click. We can also have our approval status as well. I'll go ahead and set that to new, and I'll leave match status blank for now because that's not required. We also have the ability for the system to gather some additional information about this document as it's being brought in. So in this case, I have captured by. You'll notice that the field is grayed out, and when I mouse over it, I get the red circle with a line through it. This is telling me this is a system field that as an end user, I can't enter anything into, but once I click save, it's going to go ahead and attribute my username to the captured by index field. So I'll go ahead and click save and bring this into the system. Now when I refresh my archive, so now that we've brought a document into the system, let's go ahead and look at how we can find documents that we may be looking for. So let's say I want to find all of my invoices from a vendor that has the word brew in their vendor name. So I can come over to my vendor invoices archive, and instead of clicking on the word vendor invoices, I'll go ahead and click on the magnifying glass. So here I can see a list of searches that I have access to, and I'll go ahead and just click on browse vendor invoice. So here in vendor name, I'll type in the word brew, and we'll go ahead and run this search. Now this is going to return all of the invoices where the vendor name contains the word brew. So in this case, I've got the brew shop, brew house, and brewer supplies co. Now, here I only have 12 invoices, but in a production system, we could see hundreds of invoices with the brew in the vendor name. So let's say we wanted to find a specific invoice. This isn't going to get us all the way there. So we can go ahead and on the fly, we can refine our search. So maybe we want to say that we know this is for the sales team. So I'll go ahead and type sales in my cost center, and I'm going to refine the search. So now I'm down to just two different invoices. And maybe I want to refine it even further. Maybe I know that um, this is a new invoice, maybe the one we just brought in. So I can even search on that approval status as well. So it's really quick and easy to run a search and then refine it based on that information. Now, we can also search for documents in other ways as well. So I'm going to go ahead and look at my contracts. So let's say I wanted to find all of the contracts within a given date range. And we could apply this same logic for invoices or any other type of document as well, but that's what I have set up here. So I want to find all of my contracts from the year 2013. So I'm going to say from January 1st to December. And we'll go ahead and run this search. And now we'll see that I've only gotten contracts back that have a date in 2013. We can also search based on the content within the document. So maybe I'm in human resources and I want to find an employee that has experience as a brewer. So I'll go ahead over here to my employee records search and I'll do a keyword search for the word brewer. We'll go ahead and run that. And what you'll notice here is that I don't have an index field that has the word brewer in it, but I have another column here called hits. So this is telling me that the word brewer is showing up one time inside of this record. I'll go ahead and double click on this record to pull it up. Now, once I'm looking at the document here, as I scroll down, we'll see the word brewer is highlighted. Perfect. Now, all the searches that I've shown up to this point are looking at one archive. But let's say we have documents across multiple archives. So if we go back to accounts payable, maybe this is the typical three-way match. So I've got an invoice that's just come in, and I want to make sure that I have the appropriate packing slip and purchase order to match that. Well, we can handle that as well. So I'll go back into my accounts payable searches, and I'll look at the three-way match. So now I can type in my PO number and say, what do I have for that? So now we'll see all of the documents across multiple archives returned to us. So here I've got my one purchase order, I've got one packing slip, and my invoices to go along with it as well. So it's that quick and easy to find all of the documents related to that invoice. So one other thing we understand here at Square 9 is that you're not maybe you'll be inside of your accounting software and you want to run that same three-way match. Well, we have an option for that. I'm going to go ahead here and pull up a Salesforce page. And just to reiterate, this could be any application or any software. This could be an email or it could be a PDF that you have open on your screen. It doesn't matter. And you'll notice here I have an order number. So I could come here and copy and paste this order number, open up Global Search and find the search and go ahead and run it. But we've made it even easier. I can simply mouse over the information I'm looking for, hold down a key on my keyboard, and click. And our system is going to OCR the text under your mouse, and it's going to go ahead and open up a new browser tab and return the search for those documents. So here we'll see I've got the purchase order, packing slip, and invoices that I had before without even having to be inside of our system. It's that quick, it's that easy. So now that we've got documents into our system, we've found them, let's look at some things we can do with the document once we're here. I'm going to go ahead and open up this invoice that we were looking at before and show you some of the things we can do. So from here, we can adjust any index data that we might want to. We can also annotate the document. So we can highlight maybe information that's important to us. So maybe I want to highlight the first line item here on this purchase order. I can also add a stamp. So maybe this has been approved today. Let me go ahead and stamp that on there. And you'll notice it's automatically adding today's date and time. I can also redact information. So if I don't want this information to be seen, I can redact that. And I can also add a sticky note to our document as well, just like it's paper. Now, the nice thing about all of the annotations on this document is that they're a layer on top of the document. So if I needed to come back and say, I know this is no longer approved, because I am a super user of the system, I have rights to come in and modify and delete these annotations. And that is something we can secure by user. So I'll come in here and simply delete the annotation, the sticky note, and the redaction. And now the document's just back to how it was before. We also have options for signing. So I can click sign and drag out this little signature box here and sign away. Now, once I click the orange save button, this signature is going to get burned into the document. So it's just as if I had signed a piece of paper. And with that, we are e-sign and UATA compliant. Some other things we can do from here is we can replace this document with another document in our computer. We can open it in its native Windows application, print it, email it, export it, which is a fancy way to say download. And then we also have DocuSign and QuickBooks integration as well. So we've taken a high-level overview of the solution and how we can customize it to best fit your needs. We've also looked at how we can import documents and attribute key metadata to them, and how to search for those documents based on that metadata or content within the documents, and even from outside of our system. We've also looked at some of the different things we can do with the document, such as annotating it or signing it. And all of this is just scratching the surface of what we can do here at Square 9 to help you manage your content better.